Peaky Blinders is one of the most popular television shows of all time. The fans thought it was over, but they finally got a new insight into the series, but not in the way they ever expected. So, from its fantastic story to its incredible setting, let's discuss how Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom, is like an extra episode for the fans.
They'll do more tests. They do this thing, pulmonary something, where they collapse the lung, let it rest, and sometimes the lung cures itself.
Peaky Blinders may have finished its run on the television screens, and the so-called movie sequel seems to be quite a way off. But the Shelby family haven't been gone for long thanks to a brand new video game launching on the 9th of March. People were not exactly expecting much from this game, as it did seem a little weird. I mean, can you blame them? It's a VR game after all. Most of the hardcore Peaky Blinders fans were of course used to the television, and might not have been interested in a very weird VR game.
But if you'd read my card instead of burning it, you would realize that this is a misunderstanding. Now, I've been very patient given the circumstances, but you need to sit down and let me read my newspaper.
However, this video game is absolutely phenomenal and is basically a new episode for fans. So what's it about? Well, Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom comes to us from London-based developer Maze Theory. These guys have made some incredible games in the past, such as the various memorable recent Doctor Who games. If you're a fan of those, then you will most likely love this one as well. The development has been reported on quite heavily, as everybody knew that Peaky Blinders was an incredibly huge franchise.
We were in Paris on our honeymoon.
God, I hate Paris.
Hey, you prefer Berlin?
Oswald and I are going to marry there, aren't we, Oswald?
From what we can tell, the video game explores the missing years between the 4th and 5th seasons of the series. For those of you who forgot, this is around the time when Tommy Shelby became an MP. However, this story isn't exactly canon to the overall story, meaning that you don't need to look at it in order to understand the series. Thank God, right? It's amazing that they gave fans what they wanted without making it feel necessary for those who don't care as much. Everybody might be hardcore into the show, but there are still some casual viewers, you know. Getting back on topic, the cast of the series has made a return for the game. We get to hear Cillian Murphy and Paul Anderson, as well as Ruth Gibson back as their iconic characters. It seemed like a great challenge for the actors, as they weren't used to voice acting.
That's when I realized. When I had you on the ground all them years ago. It's because you let me win.
I guess it worked out though, as this game has been getting some amazing reviews from all around the UK. Many critics have touted it as one of the best recent television-based games, and it's a great VR experience for many. The critics might be saying it's good though, but that doesn't mean the game is fun to play. Many have been questioning if the game is actually good, and it's hard to blame them. They know it's connected to the series, and understand it explains some missing years.
I'm so sorry. My darling. I will deal with it. I will make it go away.
But it's a VR game. People aren't exactly used to VR games, and many of them aren't that great. So, is it any good? Well, we're pleased to announce that it's actually amazing, though it definitely has some rough edges, just like any quick VR game. Peaky Blinders, The King's Ransom feels like an amazing extension of the brand. Fans are going to love it, and that's for sure. The thing is, though, it might be hard for certain fans to get access to it. This is a VR game after all, so you're going to need a VR headset. And damn, those things are quite expensive nowadays. So this might actually let the game down a bit. The great thing is though, you can always watch a playthrough on YouTube from someone who loves the game as much as you will. It's going to be a great experience, no matter if you play or watch somebody play. It's that good. What goes on in the game is going to be a complete surprise to many. Speaking of a surprise, fans were not expecting this sort of addition to the Peaky Blinders universe, as they thought everything everything was done. We already knew that the main series was over, and that a movie is coming out in a few years' time. But this is something nobody expected. It was such an awesome reveal that we were finally getting more stories from Peaky Blinders, even if it was in video game format. So what's this game about? Well, you actually play as a new character who takes part in a massive story with so many twists and turns. Right from the start, you are intersected with very familiar faces, such as Thomas Shelby, and of course a recreation of the Garrison Tavern. Tommy Shelby is an acquaintance of your character, but he doesn't really know what to make of you just yet. He trusts you enough to bring you into the game's story, and it starts from there. We don't really want to spoil exactly what goes on in this game, as it's such an amazing ride, but any Peaky Blinders fan is going to fall in love with it. What we will say though is that this game is full of so many exciting moments, and it's amazing. Just look at the trailer and all the footage. It might look a little bit rough around the edges, but the game is phenomenal. It has so many crazy moments that really mix you in with the Peaky Blinders universe. The VR experience also makes it so much better as well. I mean, have you played a VR game? They make it so you are right there in the action. You can basically feel the bullets flying by. Everything in this game works so well, and it's a fun mix of every aspect of Peaky Blinders. You get to meet these iconic characters, go through beloved locations of the show, and finally enact a period of the story that was never seen before. We think that is perfect. Speaking of perfect, though the game itself isn't anywhere near perfection, it's definitely something we should check out. Looking deeper into what the reviewers have said, they said that the plot itself is easily good enough to stand alongside the show. Without a doubt, this is the game's strongest point. The story is so well written. It's basically an extra episode from the show, and honestly, that's a really great way of doing it. We all know that fans want more from Peaky Blinders, but maybe the writers didn't find enough space to add this sort of story for the main show. Though it's obviously integral to the characters and what went on during that period, it's not something every audience member needs to know about. These sorts of side stories allow for this exploration of character and the world. For the fans that truly want it, they can seek out this information and understand the story even better. However, for the casual viewers, the main story from the television show is still fine. There's no actual need to play this game, but if you do want to look into it, it's an amazing experience. That's just so cool, isn't it? You're rewarded for seeking out more information from a series you love, and that's why we love modern media. Fandoms are treated so amazingly these days, and you can tell just by this game. It's a perfect example of the writers just wanting to get more out there, and the gameplay itself is just the cherry on top. For anyone out there who's looking for extra Peaky Blinders stories and experiences, then The King's Ransom is definitely for you. We highly recommend it. Let us know your thoughts down below. So, from its fantastic story to its incredible setting, that was our discussion on how Peaky Blinders: The King's Ransom is like an extra episode for the fans. Thanks for watching.